What's up, Rockstars? Welcome to another video. This one is a topic video where I speak about how all shipping prices that you see are lies. Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that I'm able to make videos just like this one. So if you appreciate the videos that I make for you, and I'm making it for you, the viewer, right now, thank you so much for watching. This is for you. I hope you enjoy it. You can give. There is a link in the description below. Even $1 a month would help greatly. It may be a little bit to you, but it means a lot to me. It adds up and it does help me fund all the different expenses that running a board game YouTube channel, it's an expensive hobby, entails. So thank you so much for that. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. Blanket statement, shipping is complex. Shipping is complex regardless, but then you add board games to it with a whole bunch of different, this isn't like I'm selling a gaming chair or something like that, right? You are selling a whole bunch of products grouped up differently, made differently from different manufacturers potentially, and then shipping it globally around the world in an industry that is in turmoil and actively changing how you do things. So don't oversimplify it. If you do, you're wrong. There's a lot of moving pieces to the puzzle, a lot of information, and we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of all that. That would be a very long video. You could discuss that for hours and ultimately lose the message within that. So I'm going to keep it kind of simple here. Just know that it's anything but simple to make these campaigns in China or anywhere and then send it out globally. It's just a complex system. There's all sorts of things from, various laws and import duties and just how you get the container. And so it's just, there's a lot to it. So I'm not going to get into all that, but know that it is complex. I'm talking about why is shipping a lie? Why is it a lie? It's a lie because it's not true. The number you see is inaccurate. It is not the cost to them to ship it to you. A few things on that. Fundamentally, there are two things at play here. There's shipping and then there's freight. And typically, when you and I go online and we buy something, whether it's on Amazon with their unrealistic 2-day shipping because of their logistics and how they do things, whether it's just buying a t-shirt from a company or something like that, you are paying shipping. That is, you're paying the warehouse to you, whatever their local warehouse is or whatever their closest warehouse is, to your doorstep. That is not freight. Freight is the big containers, right? The thing that's kind of going crazy right now. There's oil prices, gas prices, and all that other kind of stuff too. But the container issue is a big part of the play here, and that's getting the product to the warehouse. When you and I normally buy something, when it says shipping and it says a little item there, it's not including the warehousing. Now I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but suffice it to say, we're using the same word to mean two different things. So let's try and separate that first of all and look at shipping a crowdfunding game over the ocean to the warehouse and then to ultimately my house. It's a lie. For instance, here is an example of a table of shipping that you get. This is from Anasteer. I could have picked literally any campaign I've ever looked at, and it would have been a great example. This is not a dig at Anasteer or Mythic Games or anything like that. I actually could have done Marvel Zombies, but you guys would have yelled at me, stop hating, come on. So, and I don't care. Like that's not important. What's important is the prices and how they're wrong. They're just wrong. First of all, there are no real contracts here. And that's just like fundamentally, like you will get a quote, but that is not a sealed contract and they are not bound for that. Recently, we saw that happen with Shadowboard Games and Oathsworn where they were quoted something. Yeah, I'll ship it for that amount. And then 2 weeks later, suddenly it's 30% increase, 50% increase. And it's like, well, what the heck? Well, there are no contracts. You're just going to have to do, and then you can either walk away and say, I'll pay the warehousing, or say, all right, I guess I got to pay it, or I'll go talk to this guy and then he raises it. It doesn't matter. They can do whatever. That's part of the problem. That's why you hear about these like bidding wars and stuff like that. Now it's not quite at that level anymore. And it is getting better. It is trending down, as logistically we get more used to overall just this world buying more crap, right? But it's not like they know right then when they post that what it's going to cost. So it's already an estimate. However, it's not even, I talked about how it's complex, right? If you notice, it just says USA, $37. And then it'll say, normally they'll separate Hawaii and Alaska because those are fundamentally a big jump up. But all of the USA doesn't cost the same. This thing lands in Florida. And so the guy in Florida, to get it to him, it costs less than it should cost me in Idaho, because they got to transport it all the way to Idaho. They either got to put it on a cargo plane or they got to load it in their own van and drive down here. I don't care how they get it here. The point is that it costs more to go to Idaho than it does to Florida, but they're not differentiating that. Different states can have different laws around even just moving product through them. It's a very complex thing, and it's why usually they use distributors like Funnigan or any of those kind of things, right? Is because that's what they do. Not only do they do the packing where they put all the SKUs in and match all the boxes up and do all that. Sometimes they do it in China, sometimes they do it over there. Either way, they're making sure that this goes here and this goes here and that goes there and that goes there. And they have all the paperwork, they have all the weights, they have all the proper legality things and stuff like that. And that's just fundamentally how it works. But it costs me more. It costs them more to ship it to me than it does to them, but they're not charging us any different. So inherently, no matter what, unless it is to your address specific, which it's not when it comes to like a breakdown, if it's a chart that you can see without a scroll bar and it's shipping globally, they are lumping prices together and taking an average, which means the guy in Florida is helping pay for my copy. And there's nothing he can do about it unless they again, super duper target it. And even then, it's wrong because they don't know what it's going to cost yet, because the freight is who knows. Gas prices will be who knows, because we're also not buying a product and they're shipping it right away. We'll be talking about that in a future video, but this is something to where we're paying them and then years later they're charging it. And you can't just like launch, you can't just say like, we're launching the PM and then, like paying for it. You can get as close as you can, but the closer you get, the tighter of a window of the PM and the less people fill it out. It's just how that works. And again, you can get a quote and then 2 weeks later, suddenly it's different. So you fundamentally can't. It doesn't work that way. Shipping is complex. And to keep it simple, they kind of lump things together and then put it there. Now let's go back a little bit and talk about freight. Normally, freight is included in the price that you originally see, and then shipping is from the warehouse to there. In other words, the price you see, the sale point, the MSRP, or whatever you want to call it, that price includes them getting into the warehouse to sell. Not normally from the manufacturer. That's quite rare. So when you buy something online, you're typically seeing the freight costs included in that. Now you might say, well, then why isn't it so expensive? Well, first of all, it's typically not some big old board game and with made up of, 12 to 20 SKUs worth of things they had to pack up and do all this stuff. It's not some low quantity order, and even the most popular game on Kickstarter is a low quantity order in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, there are billions of people on this planet, and most of them are buying stuff, and not most of them are buying board games. So just, it's a fact of life. We're dealing with small numbers here when it comes to mass market, shipping and stuff like that. So that's an issue, right? But here we're seeing it, but it's not included in the price. Now, why isn't it included in the price, and how would it be? Like, how do they even determine that? Well, it's considered essentially a sunken cost. When you make a board game and you decide, okay, how am I going to price it? What is my profit margin? If you sell one copy and each copy has a profit margin of $10, you did not make $10, because if this is a number line and this is 0, you don't start at 0, you start below 0, right? You had all that investment you had to do. You had to buy the steel molds. There's a couple $10,000 in there. And then of course you can add the freight in there too, right? The tens of thousands of dollars that is these days, depending on the size of your game and all that kind of stuff. But either way, you start here and then you gain $10 until eventually you reach 0. And then you've made $10, $20, $30, $40. That's how that works. You have this kind of an point of profit, right? That you get where suddenly you're doing that, and you see that video games comment that a lot, or movies will, where hey, now it's profitable. In other words, we put all this money into the marketing, into the making of it, and once we gain enough profit to actually start making a profit overall, that's when that's that break-even point that you get, and then you hopefully surpass. So you have to kind of guess how many you're going to sell, and inherently you have to do that. You can't just, how else are you going to determine what that is? You don't know what your profit margin is unless you have some kind of gauge on how much you're going to sell. Now, how do you know how much you're going to sell? Well, you don't. You just have to kind of figure it out. Typically what they do is they do a minimum order. Often it's 1,000, but you can kind of guess and gauge. But that's why sometimes you'll see, oh, hey man, they needed 6,000 for Uthia. Why'd they need 6,000? Because their sunken cost was huge from the previous one. So their break-even point, making the profit that they would, was at 6,000. And if they didn't do that, they're in the negative. And then they can't pay for that because they had maxed out loans and stuff like that. So like that's that break-even point. That's why they needed 6,000, because whatever profit margin they had, they needed that times 6,000 to hit even. We've paid for everything we need to pay for, assuming nothing else comes, like a crazy shipping thing, a la the Shadowborn games and stuff like that. So when we look at stuff like Marvel Zombies and we wonder, how did it double? What's going on there? And we figure out how to solve that. Well, the problem is all these numbers are BS beforehand, but companies aren't trying to make them very accurate either, because they don't want you to look at it and say, oh my gosh, it costs so much, for the same reason that they lie about when it's going to be available. They may have just started development on it. It doesn't even have a rule book posted, and they're like, yeah, we'll deliver it in a year. It's like, no, you're not going to. It takes half the time just to start mass production and ship it out to your warehouse, and you're not going to finish it in a couple months here. So that's just silly. You know that, I know that, but that doesn't cost us anything, right? There's no monetary issue with lying about that. Just like there's no monetary issue with lying about a funding goal, because as long as you fund it, it doesn't matter. And if you didn't fund, you just cancel. If you didn't cancel, you're a jerk, right? Don't gamble on the pledge manager. But fundamentally, it's not costing us really anything. We just have to wait longer. There is a little bit of cost, and there's some argument there outside the scope of this video. But showing a improper item, like the shipping cost, and saying it's going to be lower and knowing it's not, knowing it's wrong, knowing it's just a guess, and not communicating around that, that's the issue. I view the same thing with the funding goal. If you want to put $10 funding goal, that's fine, but let's talk about what actually you're looking at here. What is your realistic thing? What's your minimum order? You can discuss things like that and then put whatever number you want there. That's totally fine. It's all about communication. If you look at the reaction to Come On with their Marvel Zombies Zombicide game, and you look at the reaction to Shadowborn games, where both had increased shipping costs, and you see the reaction, that's a communication difference, right? That's not, there's more to it. There's, respect for the backer and all this other kind of stuff. But fundamentally, you're just explaining it better, right? And if you don't explain, if you don't communicate around these issues, if you don't inform your customers, the very people that gave you the money, how the shipping things work and what's going on, then you're just gonna build tension and negativity. And so if you want to know how to fix it, that's how. If you want to know, should you believe the shipping price? No. It's almost always going to be higher. They're always going to err on the side of showing you a lower number, not a higher number. And that's just inherent. And I don't actually think that's terrible, as long as it's like, in other words, if you think it's going to be this, but it could be this, or it could be this, well, go in and put it there, but then just talk about it. That's all I ask. I think you could avoid a lot of backlash and a lot of upsetness and a lot of cancel pledges that way. And then you can even maybe survive as a company if you communicate it better. So yeah, pricing is a lie. It's not accurate. And with that, I guess that's really it. If you have any thoughts or comments, go ahead and let me know. I'll be talking again. That'll be kind of a follow-up video to this. So it's almost a two-parter, but this isn't about shipping. This is about Kickstarter and how it's fundamentally broken and how we can fix it. I'll be talking about that next time. So if you are interested in that, you can go on and subscribe. There is that below. Again, there's that Patreon link if you do appreciate videos just like this. Again, thank you so much. And if nothing else, leave a comment or a like. Helps out greatly. And with that, I'll let you go. Have a great and wonderful day. Bye, guys.